It's part 5 of Thera Abridged. In the previous part, we finished off Kukulkan in a final couple of battles. Then we turned around and very rapidly attacked the other faction that's like Kukulkan, the Paynal Empire, and immediately destroyed them in a blitzkrieg attack across 3 different settlements, one of which was their capital, and we killed all of their family members and such. So now we just need to keep going a bit to take the bits of the Paynal Empire that were turned into rebels before somebody else does, and then our business will be concluded. So here I am, marching south from their capital. You can see there is a rebel settlement here because of the border colour, even though my intel tells me it's actually owned by the yellow Spanish. There we go, it's not, it's just the rebels. There's an army we would have had to face if the enemy AI hadn't been disabled by the destruction of their faction, so we can just completely ignore their main army and go after the settlement. That's all good enough. We've got another settlement already under siege in the east, and in the west in the next turn we go and do the same thing to a final settlement, and that's all the territory we can get off Paynal. We've successfully locked them into sieges and made sure that nobody else snuck over and took them, so that's just what we needed to do. In the next turn we get a new war, although not much is going to come of this. The Order of the Pale Knight decides to declare war on me. They've blockaded a port and done nothing else. No idea who these guys are, but they are actually on our list of people we need to kill to win. So at some point I need to work out where they are. Here's me discovering that the Uriks are actually right next to me. I figured they were really far away and that's why they hadn't really attacked me despite us being at war for ages. No, they are next to me, they're just ignoring me, so that's convenient. Now back to some of these sieges. I was not interested, of course, in doing the sieges, not only because the towers on the battle maps are pretty powerful, but because I straight up don't want to. That's the most important driving factor. So we're going to do some safety save auto-resolves. That one was good enough, so we move into the place in the east without too much trouble, and from there I'm going to set up some watchtowers and then swing around because we can go over to the central front thanks to where the roads are. So if we just leave that central one under siege for a bit, we'll have that extra stack coming down to help out in a bit. In the next turn, our faction leader dies, just of old age, I believe. That's inconvenient because we actually had a really good faction leader. He had built up quite a lot of dread and had tons of great retinue items. Our new guy sucks. His command's okay, but that 0 dread and 1 authority, that's going to make him a real problem. The 1 authority in particular means that pretty much whenever troops go out of our armies, they'll just turn into rebels. I can't remember how you get authority. Maybe you get it by winning battles, hopefully, because that's all we're going to be trying to do with this guy anyway. So we'll see some results of that as we go forwards. For now, I can do the 2-stack attack on this town that I had mentioned. Or can I? Curiously, turning this into a night battle, which cancels out like 400 enemy reinforcements and 1,500 of my reinforcements, actually improved the balance bar, so I thought, okay, we'll do it without the reinforcement armies, meaning my whole movement strat was a waste of time here. But still, having the second army around could be useful, because from here, our next target is going to be the Yellow Spanish faction. They are also on the list of people to kill. They've got a couple of regions on our continent, and we can reach both of them from this territory actually. So we'll set up along the borders. Not going to do anything straight away because I think there's some advantage to making further preparations. We can make our army bigger and stuff. And now the final of the auto-resolved sieges is the one in the west. Didn't even bother with the safety save that time, and it was fine. With the army here, I set up a few watchtowers and then I decided to move them down to the end of the peninsula in the southwest where there is a port, because there are no obvious targets to go for from here. So instead, we shall throw them into some ships to make them a mobile attacking force. I've got a few ships already. It's going to take them a while to show up because they were all blockading Kukulkan before, but eventually something will happen there. One turn later, we've got some visitors from the Faustian Reich. So looks like something is starting here. They own the territory to the east of some of the places we just took, and they're coming our way. We need to do something about that, and the main reaction I can possibly do is to grab the army that was sitting awkwardly on the yellow guys' border and instead not invade the yellow guys. This is why I mentioned previously that we're going to be distracted by 3 different projects, but we'll get to that. First, on the way I wanted to fight these rebels. The balance bar didn't look very good, so I did it manually. But then I kind of messed it up. What I wanted to do is have my mostly archers force sit back and shoot them. but while trying to get over this crest of a hill to get a good line of sight on them, they ran up the hill. This meant it ended up turning into a melee. Not very good for us, but we can eventually kill them the old-fashioned way, mainly because rebels don't have much morale, so while actually their troops were good ones, they routed when I started shooting at them with the gun cav, which was handy. So now we chase them down and kill them. We ended up losing about 70 guys to kill 400. Good enough, but I was hoping for something where it was basically no losses on our side. Anyway, better than auto-resolve, I imagine. We go on and we can actually relieve that Faustian siege right now and then sit inside the castle. So that's that. We've started setting up for a war right here. They might also go for the settlement just to the north. So I'm going to bolster that place with some troops from other settlements, and we'll recruit a bunch of stuff in the area as well, ready for all that. Now for the second Distractionary project, I've got a few scraps together here to get on these ships I've just recruited to go take a look at this island at the west end of the map. It's a hefty island indeed, and it's controlled entirely by rebels as far as I could tell from sending ships past it. So we just need to work out where those rebels are, then we could land and take the island. The problem is it's actually quite a big area and I have no idea where to start looking. So I was looking around trying to see if I could notice any docks or coastal villages. There's actually one right there just next to where I landed. So I end up landing in some random place is the end of that story. Then I move north and see there's a border between two provinces. So that means there's more than one settlement on the island, and one of them is probably to the south of where I am, so I start moving down towards the southern tip there. Now we've got to take a look at the third Distractionary project. We saw there I was moving some reinforcements towards the army I'd left right up at the top of my territory, and they get attacked by the men of Valhalla, the Viking faction. So, another war. This will be the third project. It's going to start unfavourably though, because there's not too much we can do in this situation. I'm going to retreat and then they'll push forwards and force a battle on me. Because we only have ranged units, there's not too much in terms of antics we can do to actually bring the enemy down and make use of our gunners here. So we're just going to die. Annoying because those decent gunners would have been great additions to the frontline army, but at least we actually do have a frontline army. The fact I left my stack up here just in case something happened has now paid off because something is indeed happening. The Vikings around us to begin with are kind of spread out between different groups, so we should be able to make an effective immediate counterattack there. First, though, before the end of the end turn sequence, I actually get attacked by rebels, which was very surprising. Over on that island, a decent army has appeared to attack my not particularly good army. Didn't expect this at all, because normally rebels just leave you alone until you attack them. But no, they're actively seeking us out here. We've got a different brand of rebels. And yes, they are going to force this engagement. Waiting would have been great because we do have another army that will eventually show up. But no, we have to fight them right now, it seems. They've got plenty of decent troops, some high-level troops that were already of high quality when it comes to melee stuff. Their archers are trash, but we're going to lack the melee stuff to really contend with their melee stuff, and that means archers don't matter too much. We need the battle to be as delayed as possible so that our archers can grab some kills, and we need to skirmish the enemy archers away so they can't. That deals with part of the battle. As for the melee part, we kind of just need to avoid it somehow. So we'll see how it goes. We do have the luxury of choosing our terrain because we're defending, so I can be on a hill and now shoot down at the enemy as they advance. You can see though they're advancing kind of sideways. They're prioritizing my right flank, but mainly with archers. Seeing that, I decided to advance the right flank to try and get rid of the archers or just get them into melee as soon as possible. That's going to work out, but they do have the odd melee unit there, and because their melee units are quite a lot better than my Aztec-style trash that I'm attacking with, that will be an issue. You can see I've actually formed a double melee line with the Aztec trash in front. Those Aztec units have virtually no stats, so they're really just there to deplete enemy stamina as they try to fight uphill against them. I've also got these Braves who don't have very good melee stats either, but they can throw axes, so we're going to keep a bombardment of axes hitting the enemy flank, or at least we are, until that unit of Jaguar warriors gets in there and disrupts things a little bit. I'm trying to micro my 1 unit of cav to do something about that. So yes, we're rapidly losing our front line of troops. Those guys have like 2 or 3 as their attack and defensive stats, I can't remember, but they're basically pure trash. So they really are just going to get owned up. And then the pirates behind them with their higher stats and very high morale will form the delaying part of the army. The pirates will try to stop the enemy getting further once they're tired, and will gradually do something with our archers and gunners. Meanwhile, we've got stuff just running about on the enemy's flanks and rear, and that's kind of critical because having our cav just wander around behind their army both keeps their archers skirmishing around, and it causes units to chase the cavalry and not kill us too much. And any unit that's not fighting is going to very slowly get killed by our archers, and that's our best hope of inflicting damage right now. I had a decent amount of success with our cavalry in that they both killed a bunch of the enemy's trash archers and, more importantly, just kept them from doing anything, so they're walking backwards and forwards. I need to micro this front quite a lot because the enemy do have melee units chasing my cav, but as I said, that's also great that's taking them off the front line. You can see our first line is dead right now, but not much is actually happening over here. I wasn't quite sure why. What appears to be happening is the enemy have gone into taunt mode for some reason. They're just standing there taunting at us. I could charge down at them, but this is actually kind of good for us because while they stand there, we are cheaply hitting them with a few more arrows where line of sight's available and grabbing some extra kills. So fine, even if that taunting lowers our morale or raises theirs or whatever it actually does, willing to just ignore it and let them stand there for a bit. Need to pull the cav back in because they're getting too far away. And now here we are once the fighting's more truly getting started. Had a chance for another downhill charge there to get the final unit into combat, but again thought might as well just wait and see if a few more of them die. The line of sight there is not ideal, but we're hitting a few arrows onto them. On that left flank, our braves are now fighting in melee. Unfortunately, they're not all that good, but they are very cheap, so that's handy. We're trying to hack our way through some enemy slingers there, which was surprisingly ineffective. It was about this point in the battle that I noticed my gunners had suspiciously high ammunition. I realised they actually weren't doing very much up there. I tried giving them some manual targets. It says they're firing, but they're not. That old classic Total War issue. So maybe like one guy in the unit can see something, but otherwise they're not doing very much, unfortunately. We're getting to the stage when the balance bar is even now, and it even says in the second, there it is, that the battle is in our favour, apparently. Not quite what the balance bar says, but I like your enthusiasm, my guy. We now need to use our cav to try and end some of these grindy fights, because if we leave them be, they may not go so well. So I'm now going to do some rear attacks, and actually this proved to be more effective than I expected. I rear attacked their heavier infantry and actually killed them en masse, so that was great. One unit in the middle is completely destroyed, freeing up some more stuff to move around. It was at this stage I finally started manoeuvring the gunners to try and put them in a better position. There's the result of a failed rear attack on those Jaguar warriors. Need to get out of there because I don't think our bodyguard cav are all that good in melee. But yes, I wanted to get our archers and gunners to shoot into the remaining blobs. The archers are running out of arrows. As for the gunners, they were just being annoying. They actually did have line of sight on this fight, they just weren't shooting into it until I gave them manual order, and then they did, even on fire at will. So I don't know what's going on with those guys, but they didn't help in this fight as much as I wanted them to. I guess their unit wasn't that big, so maybe they weren't going to make a huge difference, but it seems we missed an opportunity with those gunners. Anyway, we do then chain rout the army. I chase them down a tiny bit to kill their general, and then we can end the battle because pretty much everything's dead. We lost more than half of our army. It was a very bloody battle, but it counts as a heroic victory, so thanks to the game. We'll come back to that army and see what it's up to in a bit. First, I decided to focus on the Viking issue. There are two armies near the settlement that we can kill pretty easily right away. We can just auto-resolve them. The first one was super easy. The second one is less easy. We can take a chance to take a look at their stats here. Looks like the Viking faction have stats that are more focused on defense. Like our pirates have something like 8 defense. Theirs tend to be double figures numbers. But on the other hand, they don't have the best attack either. And that wasn't the best auto-resolve, annoyingly. But we don't have time to kill these small enemy groups. So yes, we plow on and attack the final group. This time it is going to be a fight because they can just about match us. Their army's got lots of experienced and armoured troops, And our army is kind of the opposite. We've got lots of unarmoured trash, light archers and light infantry. But someone once told me in the comments or something that having points in melee attack is more important than melee defense. So while their combined stat numbers are quite a lot higher than our melee infantry, in terms of actual battle performance and how the game makes calculations, it's not so different, I think anyway. There was a very long period of maneuver where we've ended up in the enemy's deployment zone. But after a while, the two sides get close enough to fight each other, and I'm sitting on this slight hillside where I can get some good line of sight on the gunners and snipe away at the enemy as they come over. Again, they're not walking straight at us, they're walking as if they intend to go around my flank, which makes positioning a bit more annoying. I should move my formation really, but I don't want to. I've also got some cav going around behind their army, because there's a 4-man ballista team back there, and I wanted to take them out before they gave us any surprises. Now they're setting up close enough for our archers, who are slightly uphill, to start firing away, once they think about it for a while of course. With only 3 regular melee units in our army, we probably want to kill them at range as much as possible, and the setup seems to be going pretty well for that. We're sniping away with 4 gun units, the most gun units we've used so far, so that should be doing some damage. Now you might note, my cav around the back are half dead for some reason. Wasn't really sure what happened, but we can see there were some stakes next to that tiny ballista team, so I'm guessing we just lost the entire unit. The AI must have put down those stakes as it saw me coming in. Very good micro, but I guess that's one thing an AI is good at doing. So now we'll just stay at the back as a distraction. Now the usual is happening, as we engage the enemy along the front line, and then try to kill them with ranged units. In particular, I've got 2 of these gun units in long lines out on the flank on that hill, but I think the hill actually gives them very poor line of sight over most of the battlefield, so they're probably not doing very much. The enemy's general has gone back to engage our cav. That's fine by me, we can just shoot and keep walking away from him and kill a few, although with a lack of ammunition, we can't defeat his unit that way, we can just be annoying. Our other gun cav unit is shooting into the flank of the main line and doing some big damage. We're starting to see some easy routes, so this battle's pretty much won at this point. You can see the balance bar looks pretty good. Just need to chase stuff off the field. Annoyingly, our guns are being charged over here. But morale will help us out again. The enemy are already on shaken before they engage us, so we just need to fight them a bit and that will get rid of them, even though I'm sure they'll have a melee advantage. Now we just move forwards and take out the remaining blobs. Here's a case where I've got my Braves, my axe throwing unit, to get right behind an enemy officer. It takes a while for them to charge up their arms, but eventually the axes go in and grab us some kills. Unfortunately didn't have much ammo. And then a volley of gunshots into the flank as well hits that general unit. It's having a bad time. The general himself appears to die in that volley, and that's going to spell doom for the rest of his troops. At this stage we're pretty close to a chain rout. I think it was just the odd general's bodyguard unit still not routing, but we got them all eventually, leading us to this result. A pretty decent trade. I was worried that maybe their units will be really good, and perhaps they are, but their morale appeared to be pure trash, so we defeated them relatively easily, and we've even got enough movement points to go sit in the town after that. So we've got our frontline army ready. The Vikings have not caught us by surprise too much up there. With the Faustians, I decided to attack their army outside, and then decided to not attack it. Even though we have a giant army here now, we could take them down. I was content to just look at them this turn, mainly because I couldn't be bothered. I was thinking, well, I'll just sit here, recruit more units. I've got more units walking over here, and once we're ready, we'll do some more stuff on that front. Now back to the island. Our very diminished army takes a look around, and now discovers the nearby enemy settlement, but even though we just took down a big army, there's another relatively big army inside it. The only thing I can do now is hire mercenaries. These mercenaries aren't very good, it's all the Mesopic style units, which are the trash ones, but in this scenario it might be better than nothing. And we do have lots of money at this point, so not so bad to spend it on mercenaries. Once we're up to 20 units again, I'm going to go besiege the town. The plan here wasn't to actually use this siege equipment, because these troops would just rout instantly if we tried to do anything dangerous. I figured maybe we could just siege them out over there. Unfortunately, they did sally against us, and they have a pretty decent advantage there, 1-2. It's pretty much the same army actually that we killed earlier, just again, only this time with a better commander. So I just withdraw. There's no point fighting them because we have more troops on the way, as mentioned earlier. And speaking of troops on the way, I had troops moving over to help out with the Vikings, but some rebels blocked the road, and I actually had to move the main force off the front line to come down and deal with that. And here's me dealing with, in fact, I need to compress my army's units to make more space for the reinforcements. This desperately needs to be a button. It's exactly the sort of thing that could be automated by the computer. Just press a button that says, make this army into the smallest number of units possible. Anyway, maybe Medieval Total War 3 will have that feature. For now, I spend ages doing it myself to get a nice stack together. I then do something similar on the Faustian front, and end up with this army, a pretty decent army, ready to move out. Now I could move out and fight the enemy right in front of me, but in this scenario we don't really have to. I figured what I'll do is just fill up this settlement with various bits of trash. We've got trash from the other, less in danger settlement as well, and we can use that to get more than half a stack on the inside. Combined with defences, maybe the enemy wouldn't be able to take it down. And now I'll just walk off with the main force, so hopefully the enemy will be distracted trying to take my region, while I take their region. We come to this T-junction with 2 roads going north and 2 going south, and now I need to work out, well, which way do I go, because I don't know where the settlement is on this original map. I decided to go north. This was the wrong decision as it turns out, because after we move a bit I see the edge of the region, the little line marking the border up the top there. So that means either the settlement isn't here, or it's there where I just moved to, where it wasn't. So, the wrong choice, and in retrospect, I did find the settlement to the south later on. We'll have to deal with that another time. And as for the island thing, here is our full army, the one I prepared earlier, finally sailing out to help. As for the army on the island, I'm just going to wait around. So we'll combine the 2 armies once they're near each other, to have one decent army at the front, and maybe they will stand a better chance against those very uppity rebels. So now we have our armies prepared on all 3 fronts, none of which are required for our victory conditions. These are all distractions, but no doubt, at least with the Faustians and the Vikings, if I don't kill them, they'll just harass me for the whole campaign, so it would be nice to get them out of our hair. Or something. We're doing this for no reason, and we'll see all 3 pointless campaigns in the next part.